the market that I am bringing today is will DraftKings launch a prediction market in 2025? Yeah, so we saw some news that was coming out recently relating to this, and there was actually a market that I didn't know existed, specifically around whether or not DraftKings was going to acquire Railbird. Let's see if I could find that. I thought I had opened it.
There it is.
But
Nice.
what's funny is that, like, yeah, so this opened up in what, like, in July. Didn't have that much volume, like overall, like $22,000 in volume, but people were not that, did not expect for any acquisition to happen. And it resolved to yes when it was at 7.8%. So whoever got in on here, congratulations to you.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm getting my notes real quick. The first thing that I thought about, the reason why I'm bringing this market too, is because what a clever way to get intel on your competitor by releasing your own market relating to that. You're like, oh, I wonder, are they gonna like acquire Railbird? Like, when are they gonna launch their platform? Let's just put it to our users and let's see if they can help figure it out for us. So I thought that was really clever. But to kind of give some background on what is Railbird, so they were founded in 2021 and received a CFTC approval in 2025. For reference, Kalshi got theirs in like 2020. And they don't actually have a product. Market's coming soon. So it looks like most of the efforts that they've been putting in the past, 4 years has actually been around CFTC approval. And maybe this is all part of the plan. You just get that, have another company acquire you, or, they just happen to be at the right place at the right time when doing this. And separately, when doing some, oh, shoot, I realize I'm not sharing my screen for the Railbird stuff. Let me just share my entire window. Let's do that. So on their homepage, they have a coming soon market. So they're actually not, they don't have any product other than having the right licenses, which is very
seems
powerful.
like Railbird, got the correct regulatory license and then immediately got acquired. And I won't speculate that was always their intent, but like this acquisition is for, an entity that has already done the regulatory legwork to have this license, it feels like.
Yes, definitely.
Because I think, didn't DraftKings say that their product will be called like DraftKings Predicts or DraftKings Predictions or something? So I don't even know if they're going to be using the Railbirds.
Which is funny because I'm glad you brought that up, because actually in the rules that it needs to be offered inside the DraftKings US site and app. I think they mentioned like white labeling with a partner, so this might be part of that. That's okay. But another thing, so it has to be within the DraftKings US site and app, and announcements alone do not qualify. The product must be operational. So for them to do the acquisition and then have an operational product within the year sounds a little hard. But
the announcement is very calm. They've already announced that they're doing this.
Yes.
Right. So the question is, can they launch in 2 months? Right.
I would probably bet the no on that.
It feels like it's contingent on how much Railbird actually did versus get the license, right? Which I bet obviously they have infrastructure underneath, but is it, plug and play, call an API and surface it on my front end, or is it like more infrastructure to be built out?
Yeah, that's so true. Yeah, like with some of the stuff here, like, are these just mocks or do they actually have some of this set up? And you're right, like if they do, then maybe they can launch within the year. It's a really good call out. I also noticed too that on their X account, their last tweet was on August 2024. So not very active within our circles and spaces.
Yeah, no, I had never heard of Railbird before the acquisition. I mean, you probably have the most experience with this, Nick, in that you are heads down building your own, consumer product, a prediction market. Like, it feels very ambitious. Even if Railbird does have some stuff built, you would think that they would want to be doing testing and QA, and like there's just like a whole host of things that it feels like they would need to do in time to get this up. So yeah. What are the odds?
The key thing is, like, with an acquisition of, like, go to Polymarket's acquisition of, I forget what the name is, but right, they basically acquired a company to get a CFTC license, and this is basically what DraftKings is doing as well, is acquiring for a license, and they have infrastructure underneath. You can't just acquire a company, use their license on your infrastructure. You actually have to use the infrastructure that was approved by the CFTC
Oh
in
wow.
the actual underlying market, right? So it is pretty heavily contingent on Railbird having infrastructure built out. I mean, I'm just going to assume that they do, right? I mean,
Mhm.
there was a product team behind it, like they have a real engineering team. Obviously, I don't know them, but I'm going to assume that that is like the case. So there should be just a ready solution for it. That's my assumption. When it rolls out is kind of more of a product decision on DraftKings side and when they want to eat into their traditional business because it seems like it might be a little bit lower spread up front but lower risk. So I don't know exactly what their margins look like, but definitely the key thing is that you have to use the infrastructure that was approved by the CFTC and
Mhm.
not just put the license on top of what already exists.
Yeah, that's interesting. Even if the infrastructure is fully built, it feels like there's got to be a decent amount of like maybe not refactoring, but like work to be done just to plug it into the DraftKings front end. You know.
Yeah, I wonder how much of it was how much they've been scoping out beforehand and how much was just like, we'll see if we actually can close this and then if we can then we're going to bring them in.
Yeah,
Right.
and I like that you guys were mentioning about like the with CFTC like regulated like uh actual like tech under it and like what's approved or not. Because Audie, who we've referenced a few times on our podcast for like sports betting related stuff, it looks like he wrote a Substack relating to that of like here are all the things that need to come with it. This post was actually the context was for Polymarket in particular and them doing their acquisition, but I think everything you just said, Nick, like it seems to line up with this as well. Of like here are all the different things you need to consider, and then on top of that, like the what's the actual tech that got approved to do
So for
this.
anyone listening and not watching the video, Audie's list is the things they'll have to do: KYC, anti money laundering, confidential contract drafting, customer funding intermediation, volume incentives, broker integration, market rules amendments. It's a good point. There's more even on this list. There's a lot to do. I'm actually shocked that the poly market for them to launch this by the end of the year is at 30%. That feels really high.
I would think that's a little high as well, but
Especially with holidays too, right? You can
yeah,
imagine
You're
like
right.
dev teams
Everyone's
are
gonna be
Q4
out for
struggling
product
with it.
launch, like I don't know, like Q4 product launch at any tech company is like I you just don't do it. Everyone's just gone in the month of December. Um, but yeah, and also related to that too. So I found it was actually recommended on the side here for FanDuel launching prediction markets with CME by the end of 2025, and that's at 63%. There's probably some more research to be done there on the difference between FanDuel launching with CME versus DraftKings using Railbird, but kind of an interesting gap between the two. And if our same principles apply of like, are you going to launch something within Q4 and it being like a product decision, even if they have everything ready? And Nick, I really like you called out like that having this eat into their traditional business model. Like, there's a lot of homework to be done as to like what you should expect, what behaviors to expect, and like what you're kind of missing out on by like splitting liquidity into like two different areas. Yeah, I don't know. I think
Yeah,
this is even
this is
higher than it should be.
pretty interesting because I would actually expect like I don't know how compatible CME Group's existing infrastructure is with prediction markets, right? They obviously have future contracts, but that might be a little bit different from an event-driven contract. So though this was announced earlier, who knows if it's going to actually end up happening sooner.
Definitely.
Yeah, 63% is crazy high. It feels really high. I know FanDuel is Flutter, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
So
Flutter
yeah, I
Onion
guess
Kitty.
they at least did signal that they were, working on this stuff, many months ago and not just in the past week like DraftKings. So they have a little bit of a head start, but yeah, to your point, it doesn't. I'm shocked that number is over 50%. You
Yeah,
know.
yeah. I mean, if anything, that like you'd think that these products might launch it just before the Super Bowl. Like maybe that's what they could be rushing for. But yeah, I don't know. I'd put my money against, not financial advice to anyone listening, but but that's probably the decision I'd make. Cool. Well, sweet. That's what I got for my market.